Welcome to another episode of Two Drink Maximum, the show over two drinks, nothing more. I am your co-host, Shane.
I'm your other co-host, Chase.
We are so excited to be here today. We have a very special guest. We have Jordan St. Cyr, the Juno Award-winning contemporary Christian and country artist from Canada who is currently touring across the nation. Jordan, thank you so much for swinging by. We're very excited to have you here today.
Guys, I'm so stoked to be here. Just a few dudes just talking life. I'm in on this. So thank you.
Absolutely. It's going to be amazing.
Talking life over a few drinks, right? What could be better?
There you go.
So, Jordan, we got to ask, what are we drinking and why are we drinking it?
So I'm gonna start off by saying, what do I want to say? I want to apologize first off. This is Tim Hortons coffee. All right. Mm-hmm. So this is what I grew up drinking. I grew up in Canada, and this is probably the most mid coffee you'll ever experience. It is so blue collar, so run of the mill. But that's why I love it. You know, I worked in construction for a long time, and we had one 2 minutes down the street, and I go there almost every morning and grab it. And honestly, just being from Canada, this is kind of like our Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
here we go.
Let's do it. I've never tried this before, so I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry.
No, look, I think you just undersold it. That's actually pretty good coffee.
It's not bad. It's not bad. You know, I think they got bought out by Burger King recently. Yeah. And so things, I don't know if they're better or worse. I think they're a little worse. But
recipes maybe gone downhill, you think?
Yeah. You know, it's fine. It's fine.
Well, let me ask you a question, because I have to ask, right? I have never been to Canada. I've never been to a Tim Hortons, but I have heard legends of Timbits, and I have to know if those are as good as they sound, because I've been desperate to try one, and I can't get my hands on them.
I think it depends on what time of day you get there.
Okay.
We were in a Tim Hortons. They actually have them in, I think, Ohio or Michigan.
Yeah, I've been to Tim Hortons. We
were in like late afternoon. There were flies buzzing in there. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, that's gross. Anyway, they have a donut called the sour cream glazed.
Okay.
Sour cream.
That may sound disgusting because it's sour cream, but it's full sugar. You know what I mean? And they're great. So you get them fresh, like anything. You get it fresh. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
That's good. That would make sense because we have some friends that are our next door neighbors that are from Canada, so they travel regularly. And I keep requesting, can you please bring me back some Timbits? And they're always a little hesitant to do it. And perhaps that's why. It's because they're like, well, they're going to be stale by the time you get them.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
So the Timbits yet?
Yeah. I'll have to get one in Southern California, maybe some piping hot fresh ones, and to see if they can't rival like Krispy Kreme or something. So, So I mean, as you mentioned, so you're originally from Canada, and you're from a town called Niverville. Is that correct?
Niverville.
Okay, see, that's how you tell we're not from there. Yeah.
Hey, man. No judgment here.
But it sounds like it was kind of a quaint, small town. I mean, what was that like growing up there?
You know what? Like 1,200 people, right? Kind of a religious community. You know, we had 6 churches.
Sure.
1,200 people. Like that's pretty crazy. You kind of knew who went to church and who didn't. I was the kid who went to church. My brothers, not so much. You know what I mean? But it was a beautiful place in the world to grow up because, well, nobody wanted it. You know what I mean? Like nobody's coming after us. It was 20 minutes from the big city, Winnipeg. 800, 900,000 people. So we kind of had the best of both worlds. And, my parents grew up with some, just rough childhoods. You know, my dad didn't grow up with a dad. My mom grew up in a household that was not, typical. And so I think just moving from the city, slowing pace down, growing up in a small town, they had 4 kids and they kind of got, hit the reset button for us. Me, my 2 brothers and my sister. And I feel like they gave us a launching point, to kind of, give us a fresh start, so to speak. So I was like 6 when we moved to that town. So I didn't really know city life, but dude, it was great. You kind of knew everybody at the grocery store. Cool place to grow up.
Did that small town feel kind of, and I mean, this space to think, I guess, is what I would describe it as, even though you're close to the city. Did that give you room to explore music a little more than if you'd been in the hustle and bustle of, a super urban place?
Potentially. Yeah. I mean, there's just only so much to do, in a small town. Also, our winters are atrocious. Like they really are. And I feel like winter really fosters our unique Canadian music scene. So in Winnipeg, specifically, southern Manitoba, a lot of rock, a lot of folk, just, real acoustic guitar driven music that I think comes from just staying inside over the winter with buddies and getting together and having a good time. So, yeah.
Playing a guitar by a fire certainly leads to some nice storytelling, I think.
Absolutely. The best songs, the best ideas are.
Yeah, if you don't have like a ton of like little league options or whatever, it's like, yeah, I could imagine that growing up, that way you get more access to, music and whatnot. Did you kind of find music through your friends, or did you have like a parent or a sibling that kind of introduced you to music? What was your kind of intro there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a few ways you could look at it. Like my dad was a singer-songwriter, performer back in the day. But he, I guess, introduced us to a lot of just cool artists, the Doobie Brothers, the Eagles, Chicago, like all these amazing bands that I would, set up his double cassette recorder, tape player, and kind of make my own mixtapes. And so that was kind of like my intro into what, being an audiophile or just listening to music. But I had no idea how to sing or play guitar, any of that. That came way later. I was a bit of a late bloomer. I did sports like throughout my younger years. And then we did a play in school. So Wizard of Oz. I got the role as the Munchkin Mayor. And you know what? It had to have been because of girls, because I look back, I'm like, why the heck did you do that, bro? But a buddy of mine brought his acoustic guitar to the rehearsals because there was so much downtime. We weren't, in a lead role. And so I just kind of adopted it and stole it from him. And just, I don't know, my competitive nature, that I used in sports kind of took over. And I'm like, I'm gonna learn this thing. And, both my brothers are just amazing guitar players, piano players. My dad is as well. And so I'm just bringing up the rear and finally learning. So I would have been, 15 years old at that time. And yeah, it just kind of took over. There was a leader in my church. We had like this youth group and they were like, hey, do you want to lead the music for us? And I was like, sure, I can strum the guitar one way and I can barely sing and do it at the same time. But, in a small town, if you, maybe perhaps potentially think you might have the ability to do this, you're the guy. So that was kind of really what put me on the trajectory I'm on today. It's just, music has this amazing way of just hitting people right in the heart. It kind of break down all these walls, whether it be political or religious or all these things. It's like music has a way of just bringing people together. And so I saw that early on, through my dad's lens and then through this lens at the church. And I'm like, this is something I want to do. If this is, if there's the opportunity of pursuing something that I may never achieve, this is the dream. And so, yeah.
You remember how big your first audience was?
Oh gosh. I mean, okay. So I did this Christmas play at my church and, let's see, I told my parents that I was singing and they're like, wait, what? You're the sports guy. You don't sing. And so my parents, they tell this story. They came and they saw me, but they sat in the back row just in case they had to leave.
In case the vegetables came out.
The faith they had in you was there, but it was fleeting.
My parents, I mean, dang, that is the sickest burn. But, there's probably 60, 70 people there. You know what I mean? It was great.
That's a bigger audience than a lot of people start with. So obviously that's pretty cool.
I played for less.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you started and you didn't know if you could sing and you could play one chord, so you started as a punk rock artist. That's pretty punk rock.
For real. Yeah. Heck yes. That's right.
So as you kind of started to go through with your youth group and you kind of learned, obviously you learned to get better. I mean, clearly but when did it really kind of dawn on you, like, I love this and I maybe want to potentially pursue this as a career?
Man, you know what? It's interesting because I grew up in this small community, farming and trades, right? You were either a farmer or you worked in construction. And I held my dream so close to maybe the point of where I didn't know that maybe I believed I could do this. You know, I didn't want to share it with people because being a creative in this small community was not seen as necessarily positive. It's like, oh, that's cute. And I'm like, no, I want it to be seen as serious. I remember, I think really when it hit me is when I was installing flooring. I did that for about 15 years, and I would be in people's homes, and I'd be upstairs kicking in carpet, and I would hear my song on the radio on the main floor. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, this is a thing. Again, still wasn't making money, couldn't, turn things over to do music full time, but I still wouldn't tell people. I'm like, oh, that's my song on the radio. Because in construction, you lose credibility if you tell them you're creative. You're going to do a worse job on my floors if I know you're into music. And so, but that was probably when it dawned on me. And I would have been, probably, early 30s at that point. I'd been doing music up until that point unsuccessfully. But it was in my early 30s that things started to turn over. And yeah, just hearing your song on the radio that somebody else chose to listen to, that was huge.
What do you think kept you going before that moment started to happen? Like all those years prior, where did you draw from to keep moving forward?
I'm stubborn, bro. My wife will tell you that. There's this, I think this blue collar tenacity, this grit that you develop. I worked very hard jobs for a very long time. I did electrical for a year and a half. I did HVAC in the factory, and then out doing installs. I did stucco work. That was the hardest job I ever did for 5 summers. And then I did flooring, and it's you're running your own business and you're doing the installations, so you're being grinded on mentally and emotionally, the whole thing. And then you have this dream in your heart, at the core of who you are, that for some reason just doesn't die. I don't know why. I had a wife, I had 4 kids. They should be reason enough to say, hey, Jordan, it's time to give this up. You've got a really great job. You're bringing in a good income. You live in a part of the world that you really appreciate. You own your home. What's going on here? And I don't know, man. I had those days where I would just pray, like, God, take this away. I don't want this anymore, because it's such a push and a pull, and it just wears on your soul, your spirit. And I know that there are people listening, there's so many of us that desire to achieve this dream, right? And it just feels like it may never happen. And I don't know why it happened for me. I honestly don't know why, other than, I didn't give up. And I eventually discovered, okay, Nashville is where I need to be. Grew up in this small little town of nowhere, Canada. And I'm like, I need to start going to Nashville. I need to learn and retrain myself how to write hit songs and work with people that are so much better than myself. And so I just kept doing that, and I took my licks. Like, for real. Like, I remember writing this amazing song, what I thought was an amazing song. And I was playing it for this publisher, and it was like a Christian song, this is like, God gave me this song moments, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, don't you think Christians deserve better music than that? And I'm like, all right. You take your licks, you go home, and then you write another song. And it's like, it's just true. It's like nothing is going to take the place of the hard work. And talent is this much, your ability to show up and just be present in the scene, rub shoulders with people that you want to be like. That became, I think, really what the tipping point for me.
It's a very common refrain with anybody who is successful in the creative arts of any kind, that the personality type you have to be the person who can hear no 99 times, so that when the yes comes on time 100, you're ready for it, so
1,000%. It's not how much you can give, it's how much you can take.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably true for any entrepreneur, anybody who has got a dream. You're up for a job that everybody wants. Like everybody wants it, you know? And so what are you going to do to get it? Are you going to do it in an ethical way? Or are you going to be a little slimy and try and weasel your way in there? And I think timing is so key, because I believe that if you can just be, you know, a solid, well, let me backtrack. I always believed that I could have my family and have a career. And I think a lot of people believe that you've got to pick one or the other. And I think if you want the family and the career, you might just have to wait a little longer. At least I did, you know? And so it just, I wanted to make sure my family was taken care of. So I worked the flooring job longer, you know, brought the paycheck home for them. I worked 4 days a week, and then I'd fly out on the weekends and play shows, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, be home Monday for work. And so they really became, they showed me the guidelines, like the barriers, like, Jordan, you can walk within this space. And if you do, you know, we're going to stay, we're going to stick around, you know? And so, you know, you put the kids to bed at 8 o'clock, and I've got from 8 till midnight. I can work on my music. I can make calls, you know, emails, the whole thing. And so they showed me, you know, the sidelines, so to speak.
It's very obvious that you put in all of the hard work to not only hone your craft, but to kind of find that balance. And then it seems like around 2021, you had 2 songs, one's called Fires and one's called Weary Traveler, that, you know, it seems like, reading some interviews with you, it seems like it caught you off guard how wildly successful they were. Listening to the songs, it didn't catch us off guard how wildly successful they are, because they're great songs. But what was that like when when those kind of started to pop off, and all of a sudden it was like, whoa, what's happening here?
Dude, for real. Well, first off, you know, Fires was released independently. I had no label support. I paid for that sucker myself. Yeah. You know, we hired a radio team, that, you know, are just the best in the business, you know, so we did that. And that song took forever. You know, it took, I think it was like 40 some weeks at Billboard. And so it wasn't like it just popped off, you know, but I do remember when it hit top 5 on Billboard, dude, I was installing stairs in the basement of his house. And I was like, cool. Oh, I got to finish this.
Gotta get back to it.
You know what I mean? I got to get back to it. And so it was a very surreal feeling that I knew in the moments that I'm going to feel this later, but right now I got a job to do. And I think that's kind of been the recurring, you know, theme of my life. It's like, okay, I'm going to invest in my future, and it'll catch up to me eventually, but keep your head down, you know, do the work. And so, hearing Fires get number 5 was amazing. By that time, we had released the song Weary Traveler, and we were finally making plans to move. And I always told my wife, okay, because of Fires, we're going to be able to move from Canada to Nashville. But if Weary Traveler's a hit, we're going to be able to stay. You know what I mean? So like, that was kind of the hope. And dude, there's just no telling what's going to work at radio. And it just happened to work. And I think, again, timing was key. Like, we were in the height of the pandemic, right? We released a song called Fires, March of 2020. You know, it's just
like right when it hit. Wow.
Yeah. Right when it hit. And it was like, nothing in me was like, oh shoot, we made a mistake. You know, which is weird, because I'm like, probably not the time to introduce a new artist to the US and a new song. But again, it was a song that I think brought a lot of peace and comfort to people walking through a time that was so uncertain. And then comes the song Weary Traveler. And Weary Traveler was really written, for the world and what we were walking through. However, for us, you know, we were just moved, relocated. My youngest daughter was born with a truckload of health challenges. And then the pandemic hits. So you got layer. And for me, you know, the Weary Traveler was a bit myself, but more so my wife, because, you know, it's seasons like this that just hit a mother's heart so much more. And so, but I was surprised that song took off as quick as it did, because we had only known this slow burn with Fires. So pardon the pun.
That you mentioned your wife there and the move and all that stuff. We wanted to know, while you have this tour going on, at the very least, how does your home life balance look like, or excuse me, home work balance look like? As far as she managing the kids while you're on tour? Do you step up whenever you come back, or how does she build those guide rails for you?
Yeah. It's a wild life for real. Like, I remember early on, I'd be leaving the house and we wouldn't quite be settled. Um, her insecurities were showing, mine were showing. And I just remember telling her, like, you have 100% authority over my life to say, the family isn't working. I need you home. Mm. And so I just remember that moment very clearly. You have the veto card. Mm. My dreams do not matter nearly as much as his family. And so I think just handing that control over to her, she's never had to use it. It's just such a priority for me, knowing that this music is built on a foundation that's, rooted in our belief, our family. Like, dude, there's nothing more demoralizing than, watching a pastor who's out there, leading this mega church, making millions of dollars, and his family's just a joke. It's like, what is going on? Like, what a sham, and I'm like, the world doesn't need more of these guys, and so I'm just trying to live, what I believe, and my family is at the core of that. And so she knows that. My wife doesn't work. She stays home with the kids, and I couldn't do this without that, without her choice doing that. So that's how this works, if we're going to be honest. But at the end of the day, there is no balance. Like, balance is a myth. I heard somebody say, you tip the scale in favor of what matters most. And so there's going to be opportunities that come that take me out of the home where, okay, I should actually be home, and I've got to make that choice. And it feels like there's this pull, right? But at the end of the day, I'm never going to regret, staying home. Mm-hmm. I definitely have felt regret being on the road. And like, why am I doing this? So.
Yeah. Well, and I like the way that you put it too, because I think you're right. The scale is never perfectly balanced. It's always kind of leaning one way or the other. I think the trick is to then push it the other way so that it ultimately kind of balances out, right? So that's
the the lie that we believe in, is that we have no control, and we're just kind of, and it's like, that's not true. We can choose to be gone. We can choose to be home. We can choose a plethora of different ways to live our life. But at the end of the day, your heart is the wellspring of life. Mm-hmm. And so you decide, and you have that control. And I feel like that is really uniquely what makes us human.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
excellent thought.
Agreed. I mean, that's so cool that because you've had those conversations with your wife, that you have very much have that strong foundation, that bedrock, right, of your family and support. So when you're on this tour currently, I mean, how is that tour going? Does it enable you to kind of enjoy it a little bit more? I feel like we're still kind of in this era where we're coming off the wave of COVID, and a lot of people are still, I mean, it's like people are rediscovering the joy of live music, where it's like, music is so much better when we're all in a room together and we can experience it and hear it. Are you from the stage side of you? Are you feeling that as well, or how's that kind of working for you? The tour.
Well, you guys are in California, right? Is there still COVID there?
There's a surge, but we all kind of ignore it at this point.
I'm from Canada. We're pretty much the same country at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
But there are parts of the U.S. where you would have never thought COVID existed, which is crazy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I think, in certain states, it's like, oh yeah, we're way past COVID, and then in other states, it's like, oh, we're still just on the other side in some respects.
Yeah.
And so, but I think overall there is this joy, this joie de vivre to just, oh, we're back, and there's nothing that makes you really come to terms with how great this life can be, than when you've gone through a hard time, mm-hmm. And you've come out the other side, and you just have this whole newfound respect, this whole newfound joy for it. And so, dude, the pandemic was awful. We lost a lot of people, good friends of ours. And so it was a real thing. And I think a lot of us, we just didn't know, we didn't know which way was up. and so many people harp on the government and all this. And it's like, we're all living this for the first time. And so I think, whenever we go through those hard times, it's just like, man, you have the opportunity to show a little grace, right? And know, like, because when we harp on somebody, we're just making it about us.
Yeah.
And so, like, it really is. And it's like, it's so transparent. It's like, come on, And I think, seeing crowds now from the stage and I think we've learned a lot, and hopefully we've grown a lot. It felt like we got put in a timeout, and
for
now
2
it's
years,
like, okay, yeah. Now you can come out of your room, now play nice. And we're learning, man. The hardest thing I think in this life is to just get along with people.
We're all getting along while listening to your music these days, and country itself is undergoing a bit of a revival, I think, at least in pop culture. You've got Beyonce and Post Malone dabbling in the country sounds. Why do you think that's been growing?
I don't know that is it growing, or are these artists just bored and now they're like ready to just, conquer this mountain?
Yeah.
I feel, I don't know. I think in a lot of ways, Beyonce wasn't accepted in country, but Post Malone is. And I don't know why. I don't mind, I thought, Beyonce's viral song was great. It's like what a bop. It's great. Yeah. But it seems like Post Malone's making more inroads and having a little more success. Man, at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't know. These are giants that I don't know that I want their life, because there's just a lot of expectation that comes with it. And there's a lot of success, and success is a tool. Don't get me wrong, but that kind of success, man, I don't know if it's for me.
Yeah, it's, I certainly have my theories as well. I mean, country music as a whole is, one of the kind of defining areas of that genre is that they're storytelling songs, right? They're songs about explaining what's going on in your life and telling stories through a heartfelt way. And maybe some sort of other genres just don't allow artists that opportunity, right, to tell those kinds of stories. Is that one of the reasons perhaps why you have kind of, you're already in the club, right? You've already kind of been in that genre. Is that one of the reasons why, having a country sound or kind of being involved in that genre is exciting to you?
I think it's the only reason, for me to be honest and authentic, which is just kind of how I was made. Like, don't get me wrong, love pop music, love, hip hop or R&B or whatever. Like, these are amazing genres. I think it comes down to how you grew up. It's like, it's why, like the country artists, they grew up on farms and they grew up riding John Deeres when they were 4 years old. And so it just comes and bleeds out of them. For me, I grew up in a small farming trades community, super blue collar. People were, there wasn't a lot of pretense. It's just who we are. And we got to be who we are to make a living, because otherwise somebody will kind of call BS on them or whatever. Right. And so for me, like, I think as I progress in my career, I'll probably lean even more, that singer-songwriter Americana vibe, because it just is a sonic quality that conveys a great story. And I think, it's funny. I was in the studio today and we were tracking a song called Storyteller, and it's just, I think you hit the nail on the head. It really does carry that sonic quality, a guy on a guitar, a girl on a piano, just being honest with what's in their heart, and has a way of, again, just telling that story.
Yeah, that is an amazing approach to take to all that storytelling, which apparently it worked out pretty well for you. We want to know, the moment you had that Juno Award in your hand, did you go back home and run through town and show everybody?
Oh man,
all 1,200 people.
Yeah, I did it.
So like I met my wife, and our first date, which actually wasn't our first date, and I'll tell you why, was at Juno Fest in Winnipeg, because the Junos were in Winnipeg that year. And so me and my rock band, we were like this bar band, like Stone Temple Pilots, like grunge, the problem was we were in Winnipeg, not LA. And so we all had
ski camp.
Yeah, we all had this dream of winning a Juno, and so this would have been back in 2007, I think. And so I'd met my future wife at this house party. The next week, I invited her to this, Juno Fest deal, and she told me she had a boyfriend. And so I was like, okay, I want none of that, left it for a week or two. And then I think I sent her an email, Hotmail or something, MSN,
AOL
and,
still.
said, hey, this is stupid. I really like you. I think you really like me. I think you're in a bad spot with this other guy. Let me know what you want to do. But I think something rose up in me, and I think, at the end of the day, we got to fight for each other, and I think she was looking for somebody to fight for her. Anyways, that's my Juno story. We've been married 17 years now, so it worked.
Oh, congratulations.
But I was on tour. I was on tour when I got the award. And so again, it was kind of like, oh, I'm kicking in stairs. You know what I mean? Like I'm kicking in carpet, and then I get this amazing news. So I was on the road, and I won the Juno, for Best Contemporary Christian Album. And again, it was just a surreal thing up against other amazing artists. And again, you guys got to realize I've been unsuccessful for so long, decades, right? And so to be now, 40 years old and achieve this dream is pretty incredible. So yeah, just again, grateful. I say it all the time. The new car smell is not worn off. Just happy to be in the room, man.
I think one of the reasons perhaps that will never fade is because how hard and how earnestly you worked to get it, right? It wasn't some stupid internet, success, right? It wasn't some viral, you weren't on TikTok where you made a spit noise and now you're famous, right? It's like,
yeah, no, I've never been one to, again, take off or pop off or anything. Like it's always been low and slow. And I've always just kind of reminded my spirit, like, hey, the best meat in the world is cooked low and slow, bro. So you're just going to have to bide your time, again, keep at it. And like you said, like I think about all the people in my town, all the people that had this dream. And there's almost like a sense of guilt. Like what made me so special? Because honestly, there's so many, more talented people in our hometown than I am. Both my brothers being two of them. They're just phenomenal musicians. And again, it just came down to that grit, that tenacity, which has nothing to do with talent. It has to do with your ability to humble yourself before people who have gone before you, and really just your ability to soak it all in and learn and grow. And so that's kind of been it.
Yeah. Well, from the highs of winning a Juno to the lows of 3 empty coffee cups,
I was going to say.
Looks like we all need a refill. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with more from Jordan. The best podcast should be recorded in an environment that really kind of spurs your creativity. And we're lucky enough to record our podcast in the Muse Rooms, which is a creative co-working shared space that we are proud to have as a sponsor, and we could not be more excited.
Yeah, you can check out the Muse Rooms online to learn more about their services and the spaces they have here. Lots of really great stuff. That is themuserooms.com. That's M-U-S-E for Muse. You can also check them out on Instagram at the Muse Rooms. But have a look at it. There's tons of great amenities. It's a really wonderful environment, like you said, and it just goes a long way in making our show amazing.
Agreed. We couldn't be happier, and we think you might be too. So please check out the Muse Rooms, and we will see you there.
Yeah, and now for part 2.
Welcome back from the break. We're here with Jordan St. Cyr, Juno Award-winning contemporary Christian music artist, who's been sharing all kinds of incredible stories with us so far, including this hot cup of Tim Hortons coffee, which is still delicious. We are refilled on it. So Jordan, you've been sharing a lot about all the hard work you've done and everything you've had to struggle with to become or to arrive at this place you're at with your career and all the wonderful balance. Sorry, not so balanced, but appropriate level of balance for family and work and all that stuff. So in 2018, you had your daughter Emery, and she was diagnosed with Sturge-Weber syndrome. Yeah. Obviously, that's a frightening moment for you. How were you feeling whenever that diagnosis came down?
Yeah, it was, man, it takes your breath away. We had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and we'd only known, uneventful pregnancies, uneventful births. And so Emery was born November 15th, 2018. And, long, crimson red hair right out of the gate. Beautiful. And to accompany that red hair was just this crimson birthmark on the left side of her face. And I look at my wife and she looks at me. We look at the nurse and she's like, oh, that just looks like bruising. I'm like, that is very kind of you, I guess. I don't know. Like that is not a bruise. This is serious. And so we had an MRI within that first day of her life. And the interesting thing about the Canadian healthcare system, it was just very reactive. So we had this MRI done, and we got Emery back, and we were kind of just sent home. The doctor alluded to the fact that this could be Sturge-Weber syndrome, and then they tell us to not Google it. Well, the first thing we're doing is we're Googling it.
Immediately Googling, yeah.
Absolutely.
And my wife's heart just broke. I did not Google it because I'm like, I had as much as I could take. And my wife, she didn't share much with me, but she just like, this is not good. And so we went home. First 5.5 months were, like any other. Emery, because of this condition that we didn't know she had yet. She had some, weakness in the right side of her body. So her hand kind of curled up like this. And at 5.5 months, I get a call at work. And my wife is just like, you have to come home. Emery's having a seizure. Mm-hmm. And she was just beside herself. If you've ever seen a child have a seizure, it is the most awful thing. It looks like they're dying. I got home. Emery's still seizing. Heather's getting some things together. She's like, you got to call your mom to come over right now. We've got to go to the hospital. I literally pick up the phone and I cannot utter one word. Like nothing comes out. And my mom's like, I'll be right there. She just knew. And she came right over. And this was at the end of the school day. So we've packed up Emery. She's like, kind of that hand, like you see in the movies. And she's just like, nobody's home. And we've got her in our car seat. And then our other 3 kids walk in the door from school. And we're got it. And I'm just like, I'm just in tears. You know what I mean? My heart is broken. I think our daughter's dying, and we tell our other kids, like, we got to go to the hospital. And so, we took off, and she had another seizure, I believe on the way or at the hospital. And they just pumped this little one so full of drugs, like just to kind of get her back to her baseline. She comes out of her seizure and she's just exhausted. It's like a computer rebooting, right? And the brain is rebooting, and you hope to God that all the programs come with it, right? And so we didn't have any seizure training, right? We didn't know how to, we thought, oh, let's just drive to the hospital ourselves. It's probably quick. It's like, no, this little girl needs oxygen ASAP. The oxygen levels drop. You might need a rescue med to get them out of the seizure. We did not have that. And so our healthcare system is very reactive, meaning we didn't get the diagnosis until that hospital visit saying, oh, she's now had a seizure. She does in fact have Sturge-Weber syndrome. Oh, wow. And so it was a terrifying season for us. Again, it took, 4, 5, 6 days of just balancing out her medication, getting her back to her baseline. And we got some seizure training at the hospital, which was great. And then we went home to kind of just suffer a little, because you have no answers. And your whole life revolves around the growth of this little girl in which you do not know the outcome. So we took our TV that was downstairs, we brought it up and put it in our front entry living room. And dude, we just huddled, the 6 of us, and we just came together. We watched movies, we stayed close. And that was like the first 3 years of just trying to figure out our new normal. And slowly but surely, that PTSD kind of wears off a little, and then seizures, and it's kind of like a yo-yo. And then, you kind of let your guard down and you're hopeful again. And Emery's doing really good. And then, so we moved to the US in 2022. I hit the road, and within, I think, those first couple months, we had our introduction to the US healthcare system. And Emery was in the hospital. I was in Texas. I was in San Antonio. I get the call from my wife saying, Emery's having a seizure. It's going to be fine. Play your show. You know what I mean? But I'm like, I gotta come home. I couldn't make it home till Monday, so it was torture. Again, felt like a failure as a father for not being present. There's nothing I could do, right? Like, I like to plan. I like to, see what's coming next. And I just had to bide my time till, let's see, it was Monday when I finally got home. That was the last big bout of seizures for her, though. So this was in 2022. So it's been over a year and a half, but she's been seizure free. And so again, the MRIs reveal that she should be a lot worse, seizing a lot more. And, we credit it to, the people that just rallied around us. They lift us up in prayers and provide us the things that we needed so we could stay present. Again, when I wasn't on the road, our other 3 kids, dude, it's amazing what a child with special needs in your family does to the other 3. Mm-hmm. And they have just risen up to the occasion. The compassion that they bear now is just amazing. And so just having, again, our kids and the wife and the mother that Heather is just, I think, made all the difference. So here we are, she's 5 years old. She learned how to ride her bike. Last summer, she graduated from preschool this year. She's going into kindergarten. During our break, she was picking out her T-shirt for class. It's like this is incredible. Like, it really is. And we're cautiously optimistic. We don't know what's coming down the pike, but we're hopeful. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Very glad to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, first off, that's an incredible miracle that she's doing as well as she's doing. So we're so thankful and grateful to hear that.
Absolutely.
I love that you've described a few things as seasons, right? Because I love that the idea that this too shall pass, right? And time goes on and it kind of does its thing. But especially in that season where you don't really know what's going on and you don't really feel like you have control. Is it fair to suggest that some of the songs that you were writing and putting out there were kind of harnessing that feeling of powerlessness and then trusting in, a being that's higher than you, right? Did that kind of drive a lot of the direction in your career at the time musically?
I mean, it drove everything. Really, it did. Like, Fires wasn't written for Emery. That was written before. And I think what I discovered through writing that song is the ability to advocate for those who do not have a voice for themselves. You know what I mean? And so what I realized, again, through Emery, the little light that she is just leading our family on, is she's opened the eyes of my heart, the eyes of my being to those around me. So many of us have chronic illness. You know what I mean? That they're going to be walking their entire life, with this thing. And I was just so naive, thinking, the majority of us are pretty good. You know what I mean? We're okay. And I would say the majority of us are going through a battle that we can't see, and so really my hope is to write songs for those people that feel unseen, that are walking through stuff that there's no resolve for it. I operate in a circle, in Christian music where, if something bad happens in your life, you pray and you believe in a God of miracles to take this away. And the sad thing is a lot of people treat God like a genie in a bottle. You know what I mean? Try treating your wife that way. You know what I mean? It ain't gonna work.
Be outside real quick.
You're gonna find yourself on the street so quick. But I think the songs that I've written, songs like Fire, songs like Weary Traveler, are songs that stand in the tension, realizing that, hey, this sucks. We don't have to put a bow on it. We don't have to pretend that this doesn't suck. This sucks. However, again, this is my belief that, I look around me, I look at the colors of our world, I look at the grass. Why is the grass green? It could have been gray. You know what I mean? Why does it evoke a feeling when I look at, nature and I look at mountains, and I see goodness there. And so I believe, this something greater, this being, the universe, God, whatever you want to call that thing, I I believe God is good. At the end of the day, that's kind of where I land, because I think if God was bad, this world would have ended a long time ago. Or like there's enough good in the world that it outweighs bad every day because we're all still here. And so these songs, well, it talks about being in a real crappy situation. It does convey a message that there's goodness and that the being that created you is good. So your ability to stand in that tension, even though you're not getting what you want, you are still getting what you need. And that is my hope, because I believe for us, we didn't experience the miracle we hope for. My little girl is not physically, whole, so to speak. However, my hot take is, well, what if that was never the point? Because I don't know that I'm completely whole. We're all broken in some way. But if this little girl in her unwholeness can draw me so close to what I believe is the goodness of God, well, is that broken? If it's opened my eyes to see the needs of others around me, to throw away my naivete of what's truly going on in people's lives, knowing that I can it takes nothing for me to go buy that $50 gas gift card and bring it to my neighbor. You know what I mean? Like, dude, show up. And that's what people showed me with my little girl. And it's what I want these songs to convey. It's like, it's so practical to love on people, and it's so practical to be loved. So, yeah.
And I have appreciated that about all your songs. We've been listening to a few as we get ready to speak with you. And, outside of the direct references to the Bible and Christianity, you could take these songs and play them for anyone and impact them in an important way. And that's really wonderful that you managed to capture that level of storytelling and all your stuff.
My hope is that I write human songs. I think at the end of the day, we can write for our bubble, like even you look at pop music and it's like, man, the salacious stuff that is written, I'm like, I don't want that in my house with my kids. You know what I mean? So you're writing for your culture. And I think, in country or Christian, like we can write for our culture, but if we can, again, write the human story. And it's not about writing more mainstream or writing for more success, but it's about impact. You know what I mean? And if we can write a more human story, I think we're going to be more content and more fulfilled in our lives.
Yeah. I love it. You said that you described some of your songs that you've written as life rafts for you, for your wife, for your kids. I think that's incredible that you're viewing them that way. Obviously, your wife is probably, very aware of what you're doing, but are your kids now at a point, your oldest is 14, are your kids at a point now where they kind of understand the message, the meaning of these songs and what you were attempting to do when you were writing them?
Yeah, I think so. My oldest two are boys, so they're going to take a little longer to, to get there.
Poetry.
But you know what? We've never been ones to force anything on them. For them to. My hope for them is kind of, I believe, what my parents hoped for me, is they held a lot of life with an open hand. You know what I mean? And I think it's so easy to force our beliefs and our choices down, our that next generation's throat, so to speak. And my parents did a great job of raising myself and my brothers and my sister just with an open hand. Like, they had a strong faith. My mom was always, the Bible and the journal out every morning. You know what I mean? But I think they knew that, hey, if you live on my belief system and my faith, I'm going to do you a disservice. And so when I think about my boys, I'm like, we talk about, God, we talk about faith, we talk about how we love people. We talk all the time. It's like, hey, what's more important? People or things? They're like, people, you know what I mean? Like, this is core, to what we believe here. That's maybe the one belief, that I've, shoved down their throat. And then the other one is my wife will send them off, have a good day, be a good friend. You know what I mean? Like, these are things you don't get an out from this. I think they have to discover, well, why would I be a good friend? Why are people more valuable than things? And that's not something that we can force down their throats. They have to discover that for themselves. And so when we talk about these songs, do they understand? I'm like, I think they will, and I think subconsciously, my boys do. My girls probably understand already. My girls are 9 and 5. My boys are 14 and 12. My girls probably have a greater understanding of what these songs are. I think because their EQ, their emotional intelligence is just through the roof. They really do, or, really have that. So, but I think I really hope my boys understand that we've been given a gift through this little girl. We've also been given a responsibility to leave the world better than we came into it, and so that's all I'm trying to do. And my goal is to not do it at their expense, right? That's, number one. So I just hope that they know that they are seen and loved first. Everybody else comes second.
Yeah.
That's very beautiful. That's a great place to approach anything, and with such great care for your kids and what they're learning and understanding. Broadening it beyond them, have you encountered any fans in the world that have been touched by your music, and what was that experience like?
Oh man, that is one of the things that I don't know why I get to do what I do. Like I feel chosen. I feel like, again, the new car smell hasn't worn off. Like I'll play, songs like Fire, songs that come from this deep emotional well. I'll share about Emery's story, and I had this young couple come up to me. I think it was in Texas, and they were had this sheepish grin. Like they were a young, newly married couple, and they were just so excited to share their story with me. You could tell there were, tear stains on their face from the night. And they shared that, hey, we really wanted to have children, but we found out that there was a very high likelihood that our child would be born with special needs. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And so they put it off. And I think there was, tension in their marriage and this whole thing. And then I shared about Emery and how she became the miracle I didn't know I needed. You know what I mean? Like there's not anything about Emery at this point I would change, right? She's just this beautiful little light in my heart, in my life. She's touched the world, the world over kind of thing. And they came up to me and said, hey, we're not afraid. We're going to have a kid. And I was just like, way to go. I was like a proud dad. You know what I mean? My kids are having kids, like it's just this this moment of like, I feel like, okay, we won the day, today. Stories like that. Or, I was singing, we were at Crossville, Tennessee at this theater where they typically do plays. And I was singing to the crowd this way. And there was this wood shop in the back. And there was this guy working in the back, a young guy, like maybe 18, 19. And he had heard the show from back there. And he heard the song Weary Traveler. And just this message of like, we're not made to walk through this life alone. And he just came up to me at the end of the night, man, I've been experiencing suicidal thoughts. And it's just been like, since the pandemic, it's just been awful. And I just want to, thank you for this song because it just hit home. And here I think I'm talking to the few hundred people this way, yet I was actually there for the one guy behind me, and I'm like, that's it. And if we can just take that for what it is, I was in Crossville, Tennessee for one, not 300 or 1,000 or whatever. I don't know. I think my father's heart, it grows a little. And it doesn't make it about me. I think it's so easy in the arts and podcasting, whatever, to make it about us. And I get it. Like we're comparing, we want to grow, we want to get bigger and we want to do things. But at the end of the day, what we do is always going to be in service of something greater. You know what I mean? It's like you write a song and you want it to be in a movie, but it's not about the song. It serves the movie. Right.
Right.
And so I think for me, realizing like music is always in service of somebody's life. It's a soundtrack for them, a life raft. It keeps me in a humble place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is going to sound like intentionally cheesy, but I assure you, it's very sincere. Your music is so filled with hope and inspiration that it is just it's got to be incredible from your side being able to see how those words that you write affect people.
Yeah.
The message you're putting out there is working, right? That you aren't alone, right? And that that there's hope and inspiration out there. So really, I mean, honestly, kudos for being able to create this type of music that isn't just, you know, no offense to love songs, right? They're great. They have their place, but they're a dime a dozen, right? But it's like, but songs that actually inspire people and give people hope and comfort is, you know, I think that you have a really satisfying career because you get to make music that is important, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I think at the end of the day, this is my thought. I'm not here to project anything on anybody. It's like sitting down at the dinner table and my wife serves up a beautiful meal for our family. And I look at the food and I say, wow, this is amazing. Mm. You know, I'm grateful for this meal, but I don't make eye contact with my wife. And I say, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
thank you for the meal. Mm-hmm. And I think in a world that is, you know, it's so necessary to be kind and it's so necessary to be grateful. But I think at some point we have to kind of look in the mirror and realize that has to come from someone. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's got to come from somewhere. As far as I know, in my life, nothing, you know, something doesn't come from nothing. Something, it's got to add up somewhere. You know what I mean? And that's all I'm trying to do is believe that kindness, that true kindness, not this, you know, my version of it, because I freaking get it wrong all the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to point to God through my music, because again, if I point to me, I'm going to, you know, be, you know, I want to cuss here, you know, I'm going to really screw it up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I think if we deflect that glory, we're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Otherwise I'm totally corruptible if I just soak that all in and take it. So, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to, we're trying to, you know, point people in the direction of what is true. And that's not me. Yeah. You know, we are trying very consciously every day to say yes to the people that need us around us, to say yes to my wife and my kids.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It's again, it's the cool thing I think about your music is that you have such a clearly defined message that is coming through you, right? That it's in the best way possible. It's obvious what you were trying to get out there because you feel it so deeply, right? That it really translates. Nothing's getting lost in translation.
Right. Yeah, right. I appreciate that.
The message is one thing, but obviously as a musician, the music is another. You had said that you're working on a new record as well. Do you find that with each new record you're making, do you find that you're leaning into exploring, maybe expanding your sound sonically or trying kind of new things? Or where are you at on this new record?
Yeah. So as a kid, you know, you'd release songs and then you'd be like, oh, don't listen to that one. That's the old one. You want to listen to the new one.
Yeah.
That doesn't change. You know what I mean? I wish it did. But my perspective has changed a little bit where, you know what? If you listen to my first record, that was a self-titled record that I released with my record label BEC in 2022 to, you know, I just released a record in June this year to the next batch of songs that I'm writing. Again, I think music is just this amazing gift that we've been given to figure our stuff out. You know, in the Bible, it talks about working out your salvation, you know, and I'm like, dude, if music isn't that, I don't know what is. So for me, I just, you know, take that and it just gets in my soul. And again, I'm just trying to offer up the most authentic version of who I am. Mm-hmm. And so, I love this record that's out. I think there's some songs on there that are just honest, that are like, that is me. But I really want to get back to my roots. I want to get back to this, you know, when I was talking about, you know, living in Canada and it's winter and you're forced to stay inside in your basement with your guitar. That's the sound I'm looking for. So it's definitely a little folkier, a little more Americana or Canadiana, as I should say. And, you know, just rootsy and earthy and organic. And I think, you know, I love there's a lot of pop sensibilities on this record, just big layers and all that. But I think there's an intimacy that I want to capture on this next record. And again, hopefully we can still garner some radio success with that. Because I think at the end of the day, it was radio that captured my heart back when I was 13, 14 years old. And so I think just, again, a lot more acoustic guitar driven, honest, you know, unabashed, just whatever, just going to let my heart barf on a page, I guess, and see what happens.
I mean, that works. If it works,
but that's
it
good
works
though.
well.
I mean, yeah, the best artists kind of go through seasons too. They go through kind of changes or whatever. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Kiss made a disco record, and that was terrible, But
I don't know. I thought it was fine.
Post Malone is making a country album, and from the tracks I've heard so far, it looks like it's going to be pretty good. So, I mean, stripping things down or changing things up, I think, is the sign of a healthy artist. Yeah,
you got to keep moving forward. I think you gotta like, everybody wants the original you, but they also want something new, and so you do have to bring something new to the table without compromising who you are. Because I think there are bands like, let's say, a Mumford & Sons. Man, when in their heyday they were fire. And then all of a sudden they release kind of like this pop thing, and everybody's like, really?
Boo, play the old stuff.
Play the old stuff. Man, imagine being at those shows night after night. But yeah.
Well, continuing down the artist thought, when you're building an album, obviously you're going to, like you said, you're vomiting it on the page, you're creating a lot of works, a lot of amazing things. How do you go through the process of choosing what doesn't go on the album? Like, are there times when you have to fight through your ego and you're like, I really love the song, but it doesn't fit the whole shape of the album that I'm building? What are those moments like for you? Yeah,
it's hard because you've got to, all these songs are your babies, right? And you eventually just have to let them go. You know what I mean? It's like, and you grieve a little bit, because these, every song an artist writes at one point was their best song. That is a contender for the album. Like, I think that, nobody's putting a song on an album that they, thought was okay. Every song, I think, in our minds, we're not right, but has the potential to be the biggest worldwide smash, but I think there's a tension there. There's a give and take. Again, my label's so great. I think that we agree on a lot up front. So, like, let's say on this album, My Foundation, that's out now, I think 4 or 5 songs we just agreed upon that were probably more radio friendly songs. So once the label has those, I think they really trusted me on the back end to kind of fill out, the 11 song album with songs that I really believed in. And so, we probably had about 35, 40 songs and had to whittle down to 11, and it's hard. And honestly, it's funny because I'll play shows and we'll play a good amount off the album. I'm still playing songs that aren't cut because I need that for me, So yeah, it's not a perfect process. There are songs, maybe 1 or 2 on this album that maybe didn't even need to be there. So there's that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the exciting thing is you've always got the B-sides, right? If you wanted to do a B-side record, right, you could just put those out as well. Those always do pretty well for artists too. So
there you go.
Well, I mean, it's awesome that you're already working on the new record for people who are kind of after listening to My Foundation are kind of already hungry for more, which, by the way, on a random side note, it's a little disappointing that we live in a world now where it's like you put out an awesome record and like it already starts to kind of feel like I got to put out something quickly. I got to follow up. Like our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. But for anybody for fans that are listening, can you give us a little tease? Do you have a rough idea when the next record is coming?
Oh, geez, probably. I mean, if I'm lucky, end of 25, end of 2025.
Oh, wow. Okay, nice. All right. So then make a wait a little bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think, from the commerce side, you release an album, you got to have that return on investment. And if you release something too soon, it kind of overshadows what you just put out, right? It's very practical. Yeah. You got to have some wins at radio, and I think the label will see if they want to keep me after this record. So, so I think at the end of the day, you need, things to work. You hope things win. And, but man, I'm just, again, so just grateful to be in the room, putting out music. That's a dream come true for so many people. So to be able to do this is crazy. But, living here in Tennessee, I get to call up a buddy and we can go write a great song and demo it out. And it's like 80% done, that you'd hear. It sounds like it's on the radio already. And I get to do that day in and day out. I'm like, that's a dream come true. So.
Well, do you have any tour stops or show dates coming up that you might want to let people know about?
Absolutely. There's a lot of shows out there. I would say go to jordansaintcyr.com/tour if people still do websites, or just, we'll keep you up to date on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the things. But yeah, I'm around the country, and we're going to be announcing, I think, about 20 dates this fall. I'm doing my first headline tour, the My Foundation tour, with some buddies of mine, Stars Go Dim, and the band Table. These dudes are just, they're quality people. So if the shows suck, the culture on the bus is going to be fire. So we're looking forward to it.
That's a fair trade-off.
Yeah.
There, you win some, you lose some, right?
You win some, you lose some. That's right.
Well, that's awesome. Well, yeah. Well, good enough. So you're on the socials, and people can follow you there. I mean, and why wouldn't you? If you're the headlining tour is coming to LA, let us know, man. We'd love to meet up and hang out.
Dude, we're playing. I think we have like an anchor date in Visalia. So I think we're coming down that way. Dude, I'd hang in a heartbeat.
Let us know. We'll try and figure it out.
We'll link it up, man. We'll make it work.
All right. I love it.
But the thing that doesn't work is that we've come to the bottom of our second drink. We've all drank all of our coffee. We just want to say...
We're all a little jittery now from Tim Hortons coffee. Yeah.
Gonna go get inspired and write some more songs, aren't you, Jordan?
That's right.
But we want to say thank you so much for joining us. Be sure and find Jordan at his website. And what is your socials? Do you know off the top of your head, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram's just at Jordan St. Cyr, JordanStcyr. It's a weird last name. I didn't make it up.
It's a cool last name, though.
I think it's cool.
I appreciate that. Growing up, I'm like, this name sucks because like nobody had it. You know what I mean? And so it's like you're kind of a weird kid. But now you're older and people think it's a cool name. I'm like, all right. I've had people come up to me and ask, hey, is that like your stage name? I'm like, I'm not that smart. But
well, now the benefit is it's easy to find on social media.
Yeah,
so
just
that's a plus
Jordan St. Cyr. Super simple.
Yeah, go follow Jordan, and then be sure and check us out also on Instagram at 2 Drink Maximum, which TWODRINKMAXIMUM.
We're getting better at that, man. I swear. Like it's not as fun anymore that we don't misspell maximum anymore. We only chose a name that's almost the entire length of the alphabet, so we're okay. Thank you to our sponsor, the Muse Rooms. They're a wonderful co-working space here in Los Angeles and Hollywood, California, and Burbank locations, wherever you are, to get all your co-working space done. Just check them out at themuserooms.com. That's MUSE for Muse. And thank you again, Jordan. It was a wonderful chat with you today.
Guys, thanks so much. It was a blast.
All right, we'll catch you guys on the next time. Cheers.
All right, man. All right, see you guys.